You're sitting there. You know exactly what needs to happen. The work is open. The alarm already went off. The version of you that made plans last night, the one full of intention and quiet resolve, that version knew. And now, here you are, doing everything except the thing. Not scrolling mindlessly, not even resting, just suspended, caught in the strange paralysis between knowing and doing, where the gap feels like inches but moves like miles. You've been here before, more times than you'd like to count. And every time, the story is the same. You tell yourself it's laziness. You tell yourself you just need more motivation, a better morning routine, the right playlist, the right mood. You negotiate, you delay, and somewhere beneath all of it, a quieter, more damaging conclusion starts to form. Maybe I'm just not built for this. Stop. That conclusion is wrong. Not motivationally wrong, mechanically wrong. What's happening in that moment of paralysis isn't a character flaw. It's a predictable neurological event. It has a cause, it has a structure. And, this is the part that changes everything, it has a solution that has nothing to do with trying harder. You don't need more willpower. You need to understand the game your brain is playing. Because once you see it clearly, you can change it entirely. If you're done letting resistance make your decisions, type "I choose hard" in the comments. It's a small move, but every shift starts with one. Let's go back, not to last night or last week, further than that. Your brain is approximately 2.5 million years old in its basic architecture. And for the overwhelming majority of that time, the smartest thing it could do was exactly what it's doing to you right now. Avoid unnecessary effort, resist uncertain outcomes, and conserve every calorie for genuine emergencies. The brain that survived wasn't the ambitious one, it was the cautious one. The one that said, "Not yet," and "What if this goes wrong?" and "Stay where it's safe." That brain kept your ancestors alive. It is absolutely terrible at helping you build the life you want. Here's the specific mechanism. When you sit down to do something cognitively demanding, something with uncertain outcomes and delayed rewards, your brain doesn't interpret that as progress. It interprets it as a threat. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for long-term planning and deliberate action, is metabolically expensive to run, and the moment your brain detects that the task ahead is going to cost significant mental energy, it activates a pull toward low-effort, familiar behavior. Researchers call this the default mode network. You call it procrastination. It's not weakness, it's ancient engineering, misfiring in a modern context. Now add to that the story most people tell themselves about why they can't seem to stay consistent. I'm just not a disciplined person. I don't have what it takes. Other people are built differently. These aren't just false, they're structurally harmful because they locate the problem inside your character rather than inside your circuitry, and you can't fix something you've mislabeled. William James, who spent decades mapping the architecture of human behavior, observed that motivation doesn't arrive before action. It arrives because of action. You don't feel ready and then begin. The readiness is a byproduct of beginning, which means every time you wait for the feeling to show up before you start, you are waiting for something that can only exist on the other side of the thing you're avoiding. This is the first layer of the trap. The feeling you're waiting for cannot come first. It never could. And yet, almost everything about modern life reinforces the opposite belief, that you should feel inspired, energized, and clear before you do anything meaningful, that if the motivation isn't there, the timing is wrong, that you should wait. The Stoics rejected this entirely. Marcus Aurelius didn't journal about waiting for the right conditions. He wrote at the start of each day about the work ahead, not to feel ready, but to decide, to commit before the resistance arrived, because he understood something most people spend their whole lives missing. The decision to act and the feeling of wanting to act are not the same thing, and only one of them is under your control. But the brain's ancient wiring is only half the story. The other half is what's been done to it. You are living inside an environment that has been precision engineered by some of the most well-funded behavioral scientists on the planet to exploit exactly the neurological vulnerabilities you just learned about. Every app, every feed, every notification system was designed with one goal: capture your attention at the lowest possible cost of effort and keep it there as long as possible. They didn't build these systems by accident. They built them by studying your brain, finding its pressure points and pressing them thousands of times a day. The weapon they're using is dopamine, and most people have it completely backwards. Dopamine is not a pleasure chemical, it's an anticipation chemical. It fires not when you receive a reward, but when your brain predicts one is coming. Novelty triggers it, unpredictability amplifies it, which is why the pull to check your phone isn't really about the phone. It's about the maybe. Maybe there's a message. Maybe something happened. Maybe this refresh will deliver something interesting. Your brain doesn't know. And that uncertainty is exactly what keeps the dopamine loop spinning. Andrew Huberman's research makes the consequence of this devastatingly clear. When you repeatedly stimulate your dopamine system with low-effort, high-novelty inputs, scrolling, checking, reacting, you raise the neurological baseline for what counts as rewarding. Hard work, which produces its dopamine slowly and uncertainly across days and weeks, starts to register as not worth it by comparison. You haven't become lazy. You've been recalibrated, trained by your own environment to find patience physically uncomfortable. And it doesn't stop there. James Clear's research on habit architecture reveals that your physical environment is casting votes on your behavior every single moment, most of them invisible, none of them neutral. If your phone is the first thing you reach for in the morning, you've handed your attention to someone else before your own thoughts have had time to form. If your workspace bleeds into your entertainment space, your brain never fully shifts into deep work mode if the people around you normalize avoidance, comfort, and stasis. That becomes your baseline for what's acceptable. You didn't choose any of this consciously. It accumulated. Quietly, incrementally, without a single dramatic moment you could point to and say, "There, that's where it went wrong." David Goggins calls the ceiling "your mind builds the 40% rule," the point at which your brain signals exhaustion, discomfort, and done, when your actual capacity is nowhere near its limit. That signal isn't your body talking, it's your environment, your conditioning, and your dopamine recalibrated reward system all agreeing on a story. This is too hard, and it isn't worth it. That story is a lie, but it's a very convincing one when everything around you is designed to tell it. This is where most people stop. They feel the resistance, believe the story, and conclude the problem is them. The real problem, and this is the revelation everything else hinges on, is the design. Here it is, the thing that reframes everything that came before it. You were never failing because you lacked discipline. You were failing because you were playing a designed game with an undesigned life. Every system working against you, the dopamine recalibration, the default mode network, the friction-free path to distraction, was structured, intentional, and cumulative. And you were trying to beat it with raw willpower, which is the single most exhaustible resource the human brain possesses. Willpower is real. but it's a finite fuel, not an infinite supply. Research by Roy Baumeister on ego depletion shows that the capacity for self-control draws from a limited cognitive reservoir, and every decision you make, every moment of resistance you white-knuckle through, depletes it. By afternoon, the reservoir is lower. By evening, it's nearly empty, which is why your intentions are strongest in the morning and your worst decisions tend to happen at night. You're not weaker at night. You're emptier. This is why motivation-based approaches always collapse. Motivation is conditional. It shows up when you feel good, when conditions are right, when the stars briefly align, and it disappears the moment life gets heavy or the dopamine recalibrated brain decides that the couch is a better option. Building your consistency on motivation is building on sand. The Stoics understood the alternative long before behavioral science had language for it. Epictetus taught that the only domain of true freedom is the will, specifically the deliberate, pre-committed will that decides in advance and doesn't renegotiate in the moment. Not, I'll go to the gym if I feel like it, but I go to the gym. That is who I am. The feeling is not consulted. That's not rigidity. That's architecture. And architecture is exactly the word, because what you actually need isn't more effort. It's better design. Design that makes the hard behavior the easy choice. Design that reduces the friction between you and the thing that matters. Design that stops relying on how you feel at 6 a.m. and starts relying on a structure that runs whether you feel like it or not. B.J. Fogg spent years studying why people fail to change and arrived at a conclusion that should reshape how you think about every habit you've ever tried to build. When behavior doesn't happen, people blame themselves. They should be blaming their design. The behavior didn't fail because you're weak. It failed because the conditions weren't built to support it. This is the revelation. Not that you need to become someone different, but that you need to build conditions for someone different to emerge. The person you want to be is not waiting for you to find more motivation. They're waiting for you to build the right environment. So what does that building actually look like? Let's get specific. The first principle is the one everything else depends on. Remove the decision. The moment you have to decide in real time whether to do the hard thing, you have already entered a negotiation, and the resistant, dopamine recalibrated, energy-conserving part of your brain is not a fair negotiator. It has been practicing this argument your entire life. You will not out-willpower it in the moment, so the answer is to make the decision before the moment arrives. Pre-commitment is the mechanism. If the workout happens at 6:30 a.m. regardless of how you feel, there is no decision to make at 6:29. The clothes are already out. The path is already set. You removed the negotiation before it could begin. This is not discipline in the traditional sense. It's design that makes discipline unnecessary. The second principle is friction engineering. B.J. Fogg's research makes this concrete. Every additional step between you and a behavior reduces the likelihood of that behavior happening, so you invert it. You add friction to the behaviors that pull you away from growth. Log out of the apps, put the phone in another room, remove the easy escape routes, and you reduce friction for the behaviors that build you. Put the book on the pillow, set the workspace the night before, make the hard thing the most accessible option in the environment. These feel like small moves. They are not small. Friction compounds. One extra step between you and distraction, repeated across weeks, quietly rebuilds the architecture of your day. The third principle is dopamine realignment. You now know that your anticipation circuit can be trained. that dopamine fires not just for easy rewards but for any anticipated reward you've consistently associated with a cue, which means you can, over time, rewire the association. You begin to narrate the starting, not just the finishing. I showed up. I began. The resistance came, and I moved anyway. Small internal acknowledgements of your own action, delivered before the result arrives, begin to recalibrate what your brain finds rewarding. This is not affirmation for its own sake. It's neurological reconditioning, done consistently enough that hard things start to carry their own anticipatory pull. The fourth principle is sequencing. Naval Ravikant's insight that the hard thing done first changes the entire texture of the day is not just motivational, it's neurological. Completing a cognitively demanding task early produces a sense of accomplishment that lowers resistance to subsequent tasks. It builds momentum. It also eliminates the psychological weight of the deferred hard thing, that low-grade dread that sits in the background of every easy thing you do instead of the hard one. Hard things deferred don't disappear. They accumulate. They compound into a growing sense of avoidance that eventually starts to feel like identity. Hard things done first become evidence. Evidence that you are someone who does them. And that evidence, quiet, private, unremarkable to everyone but you, is the foundation of everything that comes next. We started this video in a specific moment. You were sitting there, suspended between knowing and doing, caught in a paralysis that felt personal, felt like proof of something lacking in you. Now you know what was actually happening in that moment. The default mode network pulling you toward low-effort behavior, the dopamine recalibrated reward system making patience feel painful, the environment never designed for your growth, casting its quiet votes against you, the finite willpower reservoir already depleted by 100 micro-decisions before the important one arrived. None of that was weakness. All of it was mechanics. And mechanics can be changed. But here's the layer that sits beneath all the systems, all the friction engineering, all the dopamine reconditioning, the layer that determines whether any of it actually holds. Its identity. Specifically, your identity. The quiet, largely unexamined belief you carry about the kind of person you are when it comes to hard things. Carol Dweck's research converges on something most people resist accepting. The story you tell about yourself is not a description of reality. It is a prediction of your behavior. If you believe, even quietly, even buried under layers of good intentions, that you are fundamentally someone who avoids, who quits, who needs the conditions to be perfect before beginning, then every system you build will eventually buckle under the weight of that belief. Because identity is the operating system. Everything else runs on top of it. James Clear frames the alternative with precision. Identity-based change. You don't chase the outcome. You become the person for whom the outcome is a natural consequence. Not, I want to be disciplined, but I am someone who does hard things. Not, I'm trying to build better habits, but this is who I am, and my habits are simply proof of it. The shift sounds semantic. It isn't. It changes what you allow, what you expect of yourself, what you do in the small moments that nobody sees. And those small moments are everything. Every time you do the hard thing when the voice says don't. Every time you start the work before the mood arrives, finish the set when the mind says stop, make the difficult call instead of the comfortable silence. You cast a vote for a different identity, not a dramatic vote, not a transformational moment, just a small, quiet piece of evidence that the story is changing. Votes accumulate, evidence accumulates, And at some point, not suddenly, not dramatically, but unmistakably, the self-concept shifts. The doing stops feeling like resistance to your nature and starts feeling like expression of it. You stop being someone who is trying to be disciplined and become someone who simply is. This is not a fast process. It cannot be rushed, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling a shortcut that doesn't exist. Real identity change is slow. It is unglamorous. It happens in the unremarkable repetitions, the unseen early mornings, the private decisions made in the gap between stimulus and response. But it compounds. Marcus Aurelius understood this with a clarity that 20 centuries haven't dimmed. He didn't wait for motivation. He didn't rely on feeling ready or inspired or certain. He built a practice, daily, deliberate, unspectacular, of choosing otherwise, of acting in alignment with the person he intended to be before the conditions confirmed it was appropriate to do so. He wrote not for posterity, but for practice. Each entry in the Meditations is a man arguing with his own resistance and choosing one more time to move. That is the model, not the dramatic transformation, the daily, quiet, unremarkable choice to move anyway. Your brain will keep fearing the hard thing. That fear does not go away, and the goal was never to eliminate it. The goal is to make it irrelevant, to build systems so solid, an identity so consistent, that the fear becomes background noise rather than a deciding vote. You are not waiting to become someone different. You are one decision away from beginning to be someone different. The moment of paralysis that opened this video, that suspended, stuck, suspended between knowing and doing feeling, that moment will come again. It always does. The question is no longer, why does this keep happening? The question is, what are you going to do with it this time? The resistance is always going to show up. The question is whether you show up louder. If that's the standard you're holding yourself to, leave a comment below. I move anyway. Subscribe to the Stoic Mode and turn on notifications so you never miss what's next, because we're just getting started, and so are you. Thank you for watching. Stay hard, stay deliberate, keep going.